But yeah, this is come on, man. Like maybe from what I heard, it just was bad. It was bad all the way around. If you look at the damn the animation for the streets, let me go back a little bit for the for shooting animation before this, like right here. Look at the gun, like the look. You see that streak right there?
Skills
Look
as
at
the
this.
character
What
literally
type of
just
shit?
stands in the middle of the road getting shot. Nothing about it inspired confidence, and somehow things only got worse from here. Just 5 days after headlines started circulating about the co-CEO accusing critics of being paid off or being paid actors, both the studio's chief legal officer and chief financial officer quit.
So at the same time that somebody's out there caping for the game, two niggas high up, because the chief financial officer and chief, whenever in corporate that they have a chief in front of their name, they upper management. Like if this game does well, they stand to make a significant monetary gain off of this. So for them to resign right when the game is about to drop, come on, cuz. Come on, cuz.
Less than a week before launch. That is not a reshuffle, that is a lifeboat moment. That is people that are in charge of legal and financial liability saying, no thanks, we're good, and stepping
Look
off
at
the
the
ship
UI.
before it hits the iceberg.
Look at
And
that
looking at how
top.
that game launched,
Like look at this area. What kind of a fucking mini map is this, bro? On your GTA killer? Are you fucking kidding me? The UI looks like shit. Aim, shoot, reload. Oh my god, these little indicators for enemy types and who the fuck knows who these niggas are in the background. Oh,
yeah, I can see why. MindsEye debuted to just over 3,000 players on Steam with a 41% rating. It's like these guys are trying to compete with Concord. Social media has been
He
flooded
didn't
with
talk
clips
about
of
it. He didn't talk about it.
3,000 players on Steam with a 41.
Bro, your game just dropped. You only have 670 niggas playing it and the 41% with 1K reviews. You're at 41%. Boy, I ain't gonna lie. I seen the commercial for this shit. I thought this was a mobile game. Lord have mercy.
Percent rating. It's like these.
Oh, and they made you pay for it. And it's not like you paid $39.99. You didn't pay $40.99, like $49.99. You paid $59.99 for this fucking game. Ain't no way, cuz.
These guys are trying to compete with Concord. Social media has been flooded with clips of bugs, glitches, and complaints. It is so bad that Dark Viper, who covers GTA, ended up laughing during his sponsored segment while trying to tell people where to buy the game. Carnage had his entire sponsorship pulled before he could even make it to the main menu of the game.
What? Okay. The sponsor just paused the sponsored stream. So,
I follow him too.
It honestly feels like MindsEye entire marketing push or their marketing campaign was just canceled last minute just to stop the.
And look how shitty that is. Like, look at this. Follow the arrow. Look at this little drone mechanical enemy they have. Like, what in the fuck? Is this what games are coming to? Like, thank God we have indie devs, because boy, there's no fucking way, bro. Are you fucking kidding me?
Bleeding and avoid any further embarrassment. Though embarrassed isn't really the word that I would use, exposed feels more accurate because I took the time to sit down and play MindsEye, and at first I actually didn't understand what all the complaints are about. Sure, the gameplay was simple, but I wasn't hitting any major bugs. The performance seemed relatively fine. It was pretty stable for the most part, and the voice acting was honestly solid, like genuinely great work for such terrible writing. But for the first hour, I just kind of thought to myself, okay, maybe people are overreacting. Then it struck me. The first 2 hours of this game are basically cutscenes. You are either watching characters talk or you are driving from one place to another. Sometimes you're just following another car, and it feels intentional, like they purposely front-loaded the entire experience to delay you from hitting the broken parts. That earlier section in the game is the most polished part of the entire game. The voice work is good, the driving feels smooth, the cutscenes look relatively clean, but the actual gameplay, completely non-existent. It wasn't until almost hour 2 that I was like, bro, wait a minute. when am I actually going to play this game? Instead, you get these drawn out car chases, missions where you have to place bots on a map and then just watch them.
Wait. Did y'all see what I just saw, bro? Hold on. Ain't no fucking way that this big ass car down the way is supposed to hit this bitch.
Out
Look at what the car
chase.
does, bro. What the fuck? Why does the car just jump off the bitch like it's? Yo, the car. Look at this fucking car, bro. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
Play this game. Instead,
Hold on. Now I'm gonna slow this shit down. So y'all give me some grace because this shit. Wait, can I slow it down? Fuck. No, come on, man. Oh, playback speed. Bet. I'm gonna put it 0.5.
you get these drawn out car chases.
Look at it, bro. Did y'all see that? That this fucking car just leaps over this fucking thing. Hold on.
Instead, you get these drawn
All right, boom. We gonna go even slower so y'all can see this shit. On my mama, y'all gonna see this.
car
Look at this.
chase
Just rocking.
only
It's just rocking some of it like a fucking.
decade-old
Oh,
tech
that's
demo.
crazy, bro.
The AI in this game is just god awful. Enemies will just stand still and fire at nothing or just ignore you entirely. Civilians will do nothing at all, or sometimes they'll just trigger the exact same animation and I'll just start sprinting directly at you like a horror movie. I honestly couldn't bring myself to play any more of it, but everything that I have seen past then only gets worse. Scripted events where enemies will just die even if you don't even shoot at them, hallways filled with hundreds of pre-rendered enemies, and more. This game isn't just bad, it's unfinished. The more that I played, the more it reminded me of the day before more than
Look
GTA
at the bullet
or
animation,
anything
bro.
even close to a polished
just
full
see
release.
streaks,
But
bro.
that's exactly what they're selling it as. $60 and $30 for a premium pass. You don't put out any review copies, no gameplay. In my opinion, that's not mismanagement.
Oh my God.
It feels like these guys have been deliberately trying to avoid anyone knowing about what this game was.
So terrible.
I mean, 4 days before this game launched, when players still hadn't known anything about how this game played, they uploaded a video on their YouTube channel titled Quality Assurance with Leslie Benzies. I'm not kidding you guys. A game that breaks down in the first hour where nothing feels finished, and they made a promo video about QA. This is amazing. And that's what makes this entire thing so hard to look away from. This isn't some tiny indie team that's trying to punch above their own weight. This is a 450-person studio and a game that has been in development for nearly 7 years, founded by one of the most influential figures in modern game design. So where did all that time and money go? How do you end up with this as a product that feels so early, so stitched together with that size of a team? Either this game went through hell behind the scenes or it was designed as a scam from day one. And when 2 C-level executives walk out days before launch, something's been wrong for a long time. I look at this game and I just don't understand why they didn't sell it as an early access title. The concept isn't bad. It's genuinely not. There are some genuinely interesting things here. I like the drone companion in the futuristic setting. The bones aren't the problem. You can see there's some ambition underneath this, but the second that you start playing it, it becomes obvious that this game wasn't ready. And even more frustrating is that they practically admitted this themselves. In the official trailer that they put out, they outlined what was basically an early access roadmap. Open world exploration, dynamic events, new features that were going to be coming on down the line. So why not just call it what it was? It feels like you got a team that set out to make a GTA competitor, but you couldn't actually meet the scale or quality. So instead, you just front-loaded a demo, dressed it up as a full release, and then just hope people wouldn't notice until it was too late. At this point, it honestly feels like the only reason that MindsEye launched was because the studio needed players to act as free QA and added funding. They didn't release it because it was finished. They released it because they had no other option. But instead of just being upfront about that, they packaged it like it was a full release, leaned on that Rockstar connection by spreading a rumor that they were the ones trying to take them down, and then hoped that the polish in the first 2 hours would be enough to carry it past the refund window. It's deceptive, sure, but more than anything, it's insulting. This has to stop. We can't keep doing this. Every single time a game comes out like this, it damages the entire ecosystem. Every single time that we see a game that is marketed as a fully finished and polished product, and then it comes out into the market only for us to find out that it is a barely functioning prototype, that damages player trust. It destroys it in most cases, and it has over the years because AAA publishers have basically done the same thing in some cases.
Yeah, can we talk about that? Why in the fuck are we seeing at a time when it's never been easier to make a game? It's never been easier to fucking have people and have resources to properly QA your game, to properly like look at for the bugs. Like we've got when it's the best time graphically to it's it mechanically like you can really do a lot of shit with a lot of the engines that people are working on right now at this time in the space of gaming, and we are being force fed slop from multitudes of AAA companies who actually have the fucking money to go and do something worthwhile. Like, bitch, what the fuck is this? $60? The Switch, they ain't even giving you you bought the Switch and two, and the motherfucker said that you didn't buy the actual console, you bought a lease to use their product. They want to make games $80 now when motherfucking niggas is getting laid off in mass. The economy's fucked up. The dollar's falling all the fuck like every fucking day you look at it. Stock market's doing well, but stock market isn't an indicator of how your economy's doing. Because if that was it, bitch, we'd be living the dream. And so a nigga has the audacity to drop a game that at the best you could have said it was an early access, and now you want these like people to pay $60 for that, and it's a full release, and it looks like you're trying to say it's a live service game. What the fuck? Listen, I would get. I understand niggas having bugs like Helldivers. Helldivers it had a horrible opening. When it did, it's recovered for the most part now. But most of the reason why the player base left was not because of the bugs, because we understood that that was an infrastructure issue. That there were so many people playing the fucking game that they did not even think were even gonna look at Helldivers. That there were going to be crashes and bugs because the game dev team was just not equipped or staffed to deal with the influx of players that came when that first came off. That's the difference between situations. He was like, you can have the same shit going on, but it'd be totally different things. Now, granted, yes, Helldivers isn't perfect. It's taken a lot of slack for just different moves they've made. But when the fucking thing came the hell out, when it was good, it was good. This monstrosity that we're looking at, because you can tell when a game's not being like upfront with you, bro. If it takes you an hour and a half to 2 hours, which normally if you play more than an hour or two in Steam, they don't let you refund the game. So if you have a game that's going to front loading cutscenes and driving missions in the first 1.5 to 2 hours, and then when you get into the bones of the game, like actually playing the game, it's a fucking shit show. That's disgusting, and it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth.
People don't trust any of these trailers anymore. They don't even want to buy games on day one anymore. They're waiting. They're waiting for reviews. They're waiting for refunds. They're waiting for patches. They don't want to get burned. From my perspective, MindsEye isn't just a failure. It's just another log on the fire that's burning this industry right now. It's crazy because this is such a great candidate for early access. That's the one thing that just blows my mind with this. Why wouldn't you have packaged it like that? Because that's obviously what the game essentially is. You want to challenge a titan like Grand Theft Auto, you're going to need some obscene resources to be able to achieve that. You're going to need a lot of money, a lot of time. You're going to need a lot of player feedback. But they didn't go that route. No.
And the bad thing about that shit is that if you do it early access, you could have kept it the same price. You could have been like, we're crowdfunding. We have a good, what we feel like a base of a game. We have good bones to build on. But due to like monetary constraints and lack of staff, we need to do another round of fundraising. This is going to be early release. We're early access. We are making you pay. Like you could have said we were making you pay the game, like it's an actual game price, just because of the amount of money we needed to raise. And you could have gave them like commemorative bullshit. Oh, you get a fucking varsity jacket with a logo on it, showing that you bought the early access because you're one of the founding players. Shit like that, bro. These niggas, and it's insane because it's not the indies that are making these mistakes. Which you would feel like they're warranted in making because they have lower capabilities monetarily and staffing wise. It's these triple A's. It's kind of late gamer. What are you talking? It's 11:30. Yeah. What do you mean? I'm just talking shit. What's up, Vex? But I'm gonna talk about this shit because it's getting on my nerve. I wasn't expecting you to go live. Yeah, nah. That's all. Oh yeah, nah, man. I had to amend the schedule. Well, I have gotten a schedule that I need to put on my channel. But I had to amend it to work around a couple things that needed to get worked around. But it should be a net gain on days I go live. Um, but sometimes on Saturdays you're gonna see me pull up late on this. But I've seen this MindsEye story, bro, and I have to talk about it. I had to because it's pissing me off. These AAA devs is ridiculous at this point, man. It's like, nigga, what happened? I know what happened. You took all your fucking people and all the people that are dedicated, like you saw in Apex, all the people that were creative and dedicated, the ones that were involved with the lore, the ones that wanted to have like this live service game that had lore elements that all tied into the same Titanfall universe. Motherfuckers ended up leaving or getting pushed out by corporate. And then after they got pushed out by corporate, you're just getting slopped. And it goes down until it goes down to a point where they're like, yo, swipe everyone out that bitch, and they hire new staff, and hopefully they get lucky, and those motherfuckers are competent. But more than likely what happens is that you get motherfuckers and they continue to fuck up, and then you see a fucking whole publisher or dev team, like a gaming studio, just go under or be a shell of its former self. And we have many people you could say, like, point into Activision. They're making money, but them niggas are a shell of a former selves. Like, you can tell most of the games they make nowadays don't give a fuck about the player. EA's been like that forever with the live franchises, Madden's, all that fucking shit type of. Even with Apex was a cash cow. These bitches will not upgrade the servers. They still have poor tick rates. And then games like this that they try to give you, or like Concord, where, and I don't even think I didn't hear Concord had like gaming issues. I didn't hear it had bugs. I didn't hear it had crashes. All I heard is that it wasn't what people were asking for. Which, so I don't know why so many people have been trying to push live service games. I mean, I kind of get it because you can always charge them for cosmetics and microtransactions and shit like that. So they feel like it's like never ending cash cow. But fucking, they're not making good games. What the fuck? Like, I don't understand who's telling niggas that these games are good. And then to even be so delusional as to say that, oh, these people who are having us, these people who are giving us these bad reviews, they are paid actors. What in the fuck? Like, I just feel it feels like so much shit I'm hearing regularly. It's like that's everybody's excuse. It's like people saying, "Oh, my mental health." Like, it's like people are paid actors trying to push an agenda against us, which does happen. It feels like these motherfuckers, they just use that as a blanket excuse. You know what I hear when I hear that? It's like when police say I was in fear for my life and they end up killing somebody. It feels just like that. It's just like it's a blanket statement you use to try to give yourself out. And it's shitty. I'm getting tired of hearing it. So I had to say something about this fucking thing. And he prefaced the argument and articulates himself fairly well. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but from a gaming aspect, he's pretty spot on a lot of the time. And this one, I thought he was really spot on. There might be some things I think with like ideology and people pushing shit like that he speaks on, that I mean I totally exactly agree with. But for the most part, all the points he's making and all of the feelings that he's like expressing about being a gamer in the gaming industry, I thought were really profound.
No, they didn't. Instead, they wanted to charge $60, pretend like it was a fully finished game, give you a premium upgrade for $30. Disgusting. We have had so many discussions on this channel talking about indie games, and one of the things that I realized with this is one of the reasons why we give indie games more favorability is because of the fact that those games are largely marketed for what they are, and players know what they're getting into. It's not just the David versus Goliath narrative. We know what those games are. They're not being marketed as anything else. They're not trying to sell players broken promises. They're not trying to hype themselves up more than they need to. No, because they can't afford to. So they just sell it for what it is. And that's what they need to start doing with some of these games. I mean, look, Outer Worlds is going to be $80. Effectively, a double A game being $80. We'll see how well that one's going to go. Now, speaking of things being what they are, this game was being sold and likely funded behind the idea that its CEO is Rockstar North's former president. And we've seen that trend. We've been seeing that trend a lot recently. How many times have you guys seen a game that's been popping up that says, oh, hey, this is made by former X and Y developers or whatever it might be, and they're selling hope that they can do better than the games that they came from. They're selling the idea that they are the ones that made those games what they are. Fact of the matter is, they aren't. I keep seeing these games that are being marketed around former X or Y game developers, and they just keep flopping. Most recently, we saw it with Concord, built by a studio that was made up of former Destiny developers. Immortals of Avium came from former Call of Duty and Dead Space developers. 2K Games Project Ethos, which is coming along. Nobody's actually interested in it. It's a Fortnite clone. That game is also being led and worked on by former Call of Duty developers, and none of these games have landed. Nobody's interested in them. The only real exception that I've seen in recent memory is Embark Studios, which is made up of former Battlefield developers from ICE, who launched the Finals, which is actually an incredible game, and now they have Arc Raiders, which is coming up, and I'm definitely excited for that.
Not for nothing. Hold on. Random sidebar. Hold on. Need to get to
Finals, which is
her
actually an
picture
incredible
again.
game, and
That actress, my entire life, she's been bad. She's always been bad. Fight me on it. My entire life, all my 38 years on this earth, she has always been bad. Always been fucking shit. I'm sorry. Y'all gonna have to sue me, nigga, but I had to say that, brother. This chick, the actress, the actual actress who played, like, who was the model for this character, bad forever. I should check Suits. She was in Suits. Jessica Pearson, super bad. Super bad. How many eights? What do you mean, how many eights? I'm sorry. Oh, you must have retired.
now they have Arc
You're
Raiders,
good,
which is
you're
coming
good.
up, and I'm definitely excited for that.
Arc Raiders is a good
Now, I think
game.
there's
I'm
a few
waiting for
reasons
that too.
for this trend, but one of the big ones is how these studios rely on their names of their former games to be able to sell themselves. They use that association to get funding, for sure, but they also use it to build up hype. They lead with that legacy, which then creates this level of expectation that these studios can't actually meet. And 9 times out of 10, these developers are coming from games that have already lost goodwill. That makes things even worse because that player base is looking for somewhere else to go. So what ends up happening is that players who feel let down by these other franchises that these guys are coming from, they see these spin-off studios and they start getting their hopes up. And these studios know that they're getting their hopes up. That's the reason why they use their names and their legacy. It makes the players think, okay, maybe these are the people who left and they're the ones that actually understood what made the game great. Maybe they're the ones that can bring that feeling back. But most of the time, it doesn't happen because these guys have set themselves up for failure. Because now they're carrying the weight of an entire franchise without the infrastructure, budget, or the
Ain't
team
no
that was
way.
there to support it in the first
Ain't no
place.
way. Ain't
And
no
they're
way. Ain't no way. Ain't no way that you are. They made. I can't. They made a mini game of you giving a nigga CPR chest compression. What is it? A ghetto ass DDR element? Look at it, and it's not even like a certain beat. It's just rhythmic. Oh my god! Come on, man. We can't keep accepting this. We can't keep accepting this type of shit. And it was a PC. Fuck. It's ridiculous.
expected to now deliver something that's even better than it. Take X Defiant. That game was heavily marketed as being led by former Call of Duty developers, most notably Mark Rubin. That game had a lot of hype behind it, not because of what it showed off, but because of who was making it and what it could end up being. A lot of people wanted it to be the Call of Duty killer. That was the constant phrase that was passed around. And yet, that game, when it launched, it was riddled with issues and it failed to meet expectations. A lot of that comes down to the brutal gap between marketing promises and what these teams can actually deliver. The pitch was always a dream, a spiritual successor, a return to form, a game for the fans. But that dream, once it actually gets put into code with all the constraints of a smaller budget, less experienced developers, and a shorter timeline, rarely holds up. And I think there's a much more practical problem here as well, which is just money. Most of these developers are leaving these massive fully funded, well-oiled machines to go and join either brand new studios or smaller divisions inside of larger publishers. They go from having hundreds of engineers and specialists to small, scrappy teams that are trying to reinvent the wheel with fewer tools. In Ruben's case, he went from Activision, one of the most aggressively resourced publishers in the entire world, to Ubisoft, which, despite its major name, simply does not have the same financial firepower to be able to throw at a single shooter. Ruben himself has been transparent about this. He admitted that XDefiant's biggest hurdles and the reason why the game failed wasn't because of their vision or ambition, it was their manpower, technical limitations, and lack of marketing muscle. All things that would have never been
On technical limitations, I'll tell you something personal happened to me with X Defiant. I would download that game, and I don't know what the fuck it was. And I think I was able to work it out initially, but I was constantly getting an error code. It was talking about something about like my IP and the way like I'm hooked up to my router. I think the only way that I was able to get actual access onto the game is I had to go take a Ethernet cord directly from my modem and put it into my computer. But going through my router, it would not do it. I kept on getting error codes. I tried to figure this shit out for months, and I never have had that happen with any other fucking game. So yeah, and I thought X Defiant actually had some potential, but I know it wasn't gonna kill COD. Come on, get the fuck out of here. It's like some game coming in and saying they're gonna kill Fortnite, but you ain't even you don't have the money to pull it off. You don't have the staff. Like, you just need to be the best game you can be. Like, that's why I think a lot of these games are fucking up at. Like, look at the what was it? Expedition 33. Wasn't trying to be like anybody else. It's a turn-based RPG, but it had some like action RPG elements in it, and people loved the fucking game. It was most of the attacks and stuff. It was a French-based game, so most of everything was had a French flair on it. You could tell it was not an American influence. Well, maybe not all the way influenced. America had some influence, but it wasn't like a game from the AAA devs of America, and it was refreshing. I liked it. It was immensely fun. Um, so I don't know what the fuck's gonna go on with the gaming industry, but these niggas better get their shit together, because otherwise, a lot of these big corporate niggas, which I'm not mad at, is gonna be hemorrhaging money. Because I mean, shit, how much money have we seen AAA devs like or in studios lose just in 2025 alone? Alone.
been a problem if he was at Activision. When I look at MindsEye or any of these other games, the pattern becomes pretty clear because none of these guys were ever built to be one-man shows. That guy from Rockstar, Leslie Benzies, he isn't some solo genius that could just will a Grand Theft Auto competitor into existence. He came from one of the most well-funded, well-connected studios in the entire industry, a company that makes one of the most profitable games in the history of the hobby with virtually unlimited resources and the backing of Take-Two Interactive. Strip all that away, and it turns out Prestige doesn't build games, teams do. We've seen this happen over and over again. Talented developers leave a big name studio.
Sidebar: if you're by a trailer and an explosion of that magnitude happens and you're that close, you won't get only thrown back farther. You will also have mad shrapnel in your body, and you would die. So, like, he was like maybe 10, 15 steps away from his metal trailer when they exploded right in front of his face. I bet it would be street pizza. So that's just another thing.
Studios start something new and they just can't replicate what they were once a part of. Not because they're frauds or incapable, but because game development is creative, collaborative, and incredibly messy. It's like being in a band. You can have a great drummer or a killer guitarist, but the minute that band breaks up, the magic doesn't always carry over to the next one. Sometimes it was the combination of things that made things work. And in game development, there are a very few amount of Dave Grohls that are out there who can walk from one legendary project and then just go build another one from scratch. I think the worst part of this trend is actually the financial side of it because it works against everybody. When somebody like Leslie Benzies starts a studio, it's not just going to be the name that attracts the funding, it's also going to be the pitch. Former Rockstar president making a turn-based fantasy RPG, they're just going to sleep. But former Rockstar president making a Grand Theft Auto competitor, that's not just interesting, that is irresistible. Because if you're an investor and you hear those words in the same sentence, your mind immediately goes to making billions of dollars. Keep in mind, Grand Theft Auto 5 didn't just sell well, it became one of the most profitable pieces of entertainment in history. So when somebody tied to that success says that they want to take a shot at the throne, well, people are going to start lining up to throw money at it. A couple $100 million starts to sound like a reasonable investment if there's a slim chance of being able to pull off something that even lives in the same orbit. But the problem is, and I think we can really see this with MindsEye, is that kind of pitch then locks you into a very narrow outcome. Now that game has to look like a blockbuster. It has to be competitive with one of the biggest franchises in the world, or at least look convincing enough to appear like it could be. That's where the pressure starts to twist the entire development process, because now you've taken hundreds of millions of dollars in funding based on the promise of this being the next GTA or something like it, and there's no walking back from that. You can't pivot. You can't downscope that game. You've already sold the dream, and people backing you aren't expecting a respectable AA hit. They're expecting a cultural phenomenon. That financial pressure, as well as the expectations that they built up over time, doesn't just shape the marketing, it starts to shape the game itself, because now the most important thing to these guys isn't how the game plays or whether or not it's even remotely ready for launch. It's about how it looks. It needs to look expensive. It needs to look next gen. You start chasing spectacle over systems, and graphics take a priority over gameplay. Fidelity takes a priority over function. You're not building a game anymore. You're starting to build a trailer, something that you can chop up into 90-second montages that look just convincing enough to pass as a blockbuster in the making. And this is where things really fall apart, especially for a game like MindsEye, because those visual benchmarks eat up massive amounts of time and money. You spend years polishing cityscapes, cinematic lighting, detailed facial rigs, while the mechanics go completely untouched. Core systems get underdeveloped, bugs end up piling up, and gameplay loops remain shallow because nobody has had the time or resources to be able to even try to refine them. The visuals will sell a fantasy, but the game underneath it doesn't actually work, and you're in too deep to be able to even try to fix it. So instead of pulling back and showing where things are actually at, these studios, like with MindsEye, will just double down. They'll withhold gameplay, they'll avoid transparency, they'll rehearse every single preview, carefully select every single asset, and stall on open communication, because the moment that people start to see the cracks, the entire illusion breaks. And once you understand how these financial pressures, as well as these expectations, start to shape their development, it stops looking like incompetence and it starts looking like an inevitability. These games aren't just broken, they're built on the wrong priorities, not because the developers didn't care, but because they were never building for the players in the first place. They were building for investors and hoping the rest of it would just sort itself out later. And I think that's the most damning part and likely the cause of most of their issues, because with a lot of these games that we would like to refer to as investor-led, and you guys know exactly what kind of games that I'm talking about, more times than not, they're actually coming from already established studios or publishers, and usually from franchises that are already recognizable to begin with. So they already have a player base to be able to fall back on. They already have some revenue that's likely coming in, and also on top of that, they likely also have a little bit of greatness that's still tucked away, at least in the original concept. But with these new studios, like we see with MindsEye, led by former prestigious developers, they just become a microcosm for the best example of what happens when you're not making a game for the players, and instead the entire project is based around your investors or being able to get funding or whatever else it might be.
But imagine getting fucked like that. Imagine being one of these investors and they're telling you this game's gonna have like so much fucking hype and it's gonna go kill GTA, and you had a fucking promo about quality control, and when it dropped. Now I ain't gonna lie, whoever was still part of this. Now I'm not blaming investors, because investors, some of them are going to be hands off, but anybody in upper management, as soon as the chief financial officer and the legal officer, as soon as those two niggas resigned, like they had to know this was going to be a fucking shit show. Because that's why those two resigned. They didn't want their name equated to, like, when this game dropped, they wanted to be able to say, I was no longer with the company when this game dropped. I tried to do everything in my power to like keep them from dropping this game because it was going to be a shit show. Like that's how you defend yourself on that part. But it's a shit show.
I mean, I was looking through the history of the company, and they were hiring blockchain guys. And there were some rumblings in the background, a couple of articles that I'd read where they had talked about how this game and likely another game were meant to be either NFT or crypto games, which they obviously backed off from. But the problem is with stuff like that, it's a cancer. It's already tainted the studio. It's already tainted the games, and those games always fail. They're always a problem. And even if you take that element out, the remnants are still there because you started that project for all the wrong reasons. I said this a long time ago. You can't say NFT game without saying NFT first. And that's the first thing that comes to mind when they're making those games, not you. Made by former X or Y developer is just such a red flag now. And I didn't realize it until I started making this video, because it is all based on investor funding. If you take a minute to think about it, all they are doing is selling you the idea, as well as the investor, that they're going to make a game better than the game that they came from. And that's what everybody is hoping every single time that this goes on. I mean, look at some of the names that we constantly see used. Destiny, Call of Duty, Blizzard, BioWare. It's all former developers from studios that have already burned their audiences, so they know that the players are hungry for something else. But those studios have also made oodles of money off of the franchises that these guys are coming from. So either you have investors that are like, "Oh, we're about to hit it big right now. They're about to make the next Fortnite. They're about to make the next Call of Duty. They're about to make the next Grand Theft Auto." It's tantalizing for players and it's tantalizing for investors, but it's all selling a lie every single time. I guess not every single time, but pretty much every single time. There's no future for this game. I want to make that clear. There's zero future for this game. I saw a couple people that were talking about No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk 2077, but the problem is a lot of people don't realize those games
already had hype.
that this game doesn't have, which is one, hype. This game had no hype. It walked out of the gate and absolutely flopped. Two, it doesn't have any money. Those games already had people's money.
Yeah.
So there was a reason
invested
for
in
them
both of
to
them
improve
franchises.
those games. There was a reason for them to try to repair their reputation, because either they were a studio that was just starting out or had, somewhat of a good reputation, or they just wanted to make good. Like No Man's Sky was just quite literally, we just wanted to make a good game, but just didn't have the time to. Cyberpunk was more of, repairing their reputation for the future more than anything else. But, seeing those executives leave, I'm telling you right now, I give this studio maybe a couple months, couple weeks. That's probably about it. This game is cooked. This is a bad one. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the
Hey, that video was tight, but to have just dropped a game and your studio's cooked is diabolical work. And I just don't understand why people will fucking do that to themselves. Like, what was your reasoning for doing that to yourself? Now you just look like a fucking jackass. All right, let me see.